Awesome. Hey guys. Sorry about that. It's never a live session without some technical difficulties. Cool. Well, guys, today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn and specifically building a LinkedIn content agent. And this is something that's very near and dear to us. We've been helping hey Rob, we've been helping businesses, founders and executives of, mostly tech B2B tech companies really leverage AI or leverage LinkedIn as a effective way to generate pipeline for sales. There's so many other benefits that come with LinkedIn content creation, but the one that we always focus on is how can it help us generate more leads to then close and warm up an audience before we actually run any outbound to them. And if you've been in the sales, game for a while or you've scrolled any amount of LinkedIn, you know how cold outbound has just become such an insane channel. More people are getting cold outbounds more than ever. AI has made it so much easier to, spam people with messages. Spending the time before reaching out to someone to build that relationship, build that trust, just significantly improves the entire process. And the way that content production is going, you're going to look at individuals, you're going and researching people to see what they're talking about on LinkedIn, as part of your buying process. So during the process of doing research and understanding, a lot of people will go see what the founders are talking about because it really is a reflection of the company. And you want to see those things like case studies and things like that. And so having a strong LinkedIn presence is so important. I hope most people understand the value of it already. But I think the part that we're all at, or most of us are at, is it's quite challenging to keep up with the demands and the constant pressure of posting every day or even weekly. It's hard to find that rhythm. And what we find when working with clients, there's usually a few different failure points where we'll kind of brute force our way through it, post content for a week or a couple weeks or maybe even a month. But just given all the other things that happen in your business, it is the first thing to kind of drop off. And so it's hard to keep that momentum. It's hard to find a rhythm, a system that works for you long term. Or maybe you just don't know what to talk about. I think like that's kind of, we call it the blank page problem. And with AI, and it makes it seem like it's so easy to just jump onto Claude or Codex or whatever and say, help me write a LinkedIn post. I mean, you'll get one or two good ideas, but there's always this kind of lingering thought of like, are these the right things I should be talking about? Are these the things that are actually going to align with, help my business move forward? And so, and most of the times they're not, right? Like me posting about my, my workout routine or posting about, raising money or whatever it is, are those the things that are actually going to move the needle? And so, what I want to talk about today is how we can build a system that allows you to maintain this for a long amount of time. The reality is with content is it helps everything else perform better, and for it to be if you're only posting organic content, for it to be an actual strong inbound channel just on its own, it takes a lot of time and building that. You're building a reputation and that takes just a lot of time. And so that's why we need the system to help make it easier so we actually have the stamina to do it for a longer period of time. And AI is great for that. It's not great at coming up with great ideas. It's not great at having interesting perspectives on things, but it is really good at doing a lot of research and finding out the right things for you to talk about and getting you pretty damn close to a final post. And so we're going to talk about that system today. But I want to first jump into, a diagram of kind of how we think about content creation and how we're actually thinking about how we produce content in the era of AI. Because, the writing process actually doesn't take that long anymore, where before that was the thing that took the longest amount of time. Now it's actually finding the right things to say and saying something in a unique way, which you can only really do from having a different perspective and having a point of view. And having a point of view is way harder than it is said because most people are insanely fearful of offending people or being contrary or just not thinking they're going to alienate people in the process. And that can't be further from the case. I mean, you don't have to be, the extreme edge of where you're insulting individuals, but you do have to stand for something. And if you're starting a company, if you're building a business, you are standing for something, whether you know it or not. And we have to understand what our actual beliefs are, or what we believe to be broken about the world and the industry, for us to then say, okay, well, this is now, how we see the world that's different. And if you're right, if you're starting a company and it doesn't solve any problems, you're not going to be very successful. You're not going to actually have a good product. And so if you're solving something, that means something's broken. And so we need to tap into what is broken, that isn't working the way that it should. And that is one of your core beliefs, right? And so what we want to do is figure out what these beliefs are, to be the routing mechanism for, what it is, these things that we stand for, and how we find our actual audience. And so if we look at a diagram here, let me just pull up my screen share. I'll make this bigger for everyone. But the way we want to think about it is we have, a series of ideas. And if you've joined any of my sessions before, it's like we always think in inputs. There's something that like happens. Hold on. No, not spray paint. There's like things that happen. And then we have our outputs. And this is generally how I think about, any kind of process, workflow, whatever it is. And for this to work, and for us to be able to continuously think about what we want to create our content around, we need to first define like what it is these things are that we can use as a filter gate, because there's so many ideas, right? Like, do I talk about what meals I'm eating? Do I talk about, what happened in our office today? Do I talk about a sales call? Do I talk about what, a YouTube video, news, whatever it is? And so we need this kind of like filter layer. And this filter layer says, yeah, this is something that we should use or we should not. And instead of building this inside out, I'm actually going to take a moment to just list out, and we talk about like a modern content strategy a lot in these sessions. But let's talk about like what these actual inputs are, because we do so many things on a day-to-day basis that are genuinely good content ideas that we just overlook because it's things that we're already doing. And the best content always comes from something you've actually done or something real. Coming and making up something is never going to perform. And even just giving kind of like blind advice, like listicle advice, doesn't work anymore, because it's the exact same thing AI can do. And so the best content ideas come from real actions that you've taken, or a real lived experience. And so what we want as we think about these inputs is, what are all the things that you do on a day-to-day basis that already come up with, that already have content ideas within them? Well, I sit personally on a lot of sales calls. I sit on handful a day. They're with my exact ICP who I want to get in front of. Um, in that, I'm having a conversation. Sometimes I'm asking discovery questions, clarifying questions. Sometimes I'm reviewing a proposal with them and they're telling me why it works for them or why it doesn't work for them. And all of those things are nuggets or insights that have potential to be content. So I'm going to say sales calls is a good one. From this, I also scroll TikTok, or sorry, Twitter, X/LinkedIn, right? I sit on X and LinkedIn and I scroll because I have an addiction. But no, I like seeing what other people are doing and what they're talking about, to give me inspiration of things I can talk about. Sometimes I'm looking at some competitors, but mostly it's like absorbing so I can learn, right? AI is constantly moving. I want to see what other people are talking about, to be able to pull in and come up with my own content ideas. With that, I also look at YouTube channels, which is the same idea, right? So I'm getting inspiration, I'm seeing what is happening in the industry so I can form an opinion about it, which leads me to news. There is a new Claude update, it feels like every week. I need to stay informed on that. I also like to talk about VC funding and how startups are getting, funding and what's happening in the shift. I think there's a lot of interesting narratives around SaaS and the death of it and whatever. So I consume all these things. We then also do these weekly workshops. So I run 2 of these a week, and I have to do a lot of research on my weekly workshops. And so, all of these things are work I'm already doing to and then I'm also running team calls. Let's see. So these are all the things that I'm actually doing. And you can see this is pretty broad. I'm sure there's, 15 other things that I do on a weekly basis that could go into here. And I hope at this point you have some ideas of the things that are relevant to you. But these are what I consider all of my inputs. And all of these are actions that I take that have information in them that with the right kind of prompting or the right formatting, I can extract ideas out of. And what I think, what I see is a lot of people will, see a post and then just like write their own version of it. Or they'll read a news story and maybe you'll just go right to LinkedIn and write it. That's great for like one offs, right? Like we're doing this, maybe we have a product roadmap or maybe we have, an event circuit or something like that. And we're just thinking about, okay, this could be a good post. You write it once, but then you really don't build a system around it. And so what I like to do is say, all right, these are all my inputs. And the same way that I'm constantly doing these things and thinking of content ideas, this is where we can build an AI agent that is doing this for us and probably going to find more ideas because it's more consistent and more focused on, coming up with these ideas during the process. But, maybe most of the time they're probably not worth a post, right? Like if I say all of these and you think about how much you do all of this and imagine your list there, and then I'm just saying you're only posting 3 times a week, you actually have an inverse problem now. You have too much information, too many ideas, and not enough times to post. Well, you can post more, which is great, but we also need some kind of like filtering system. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning with, beliefs, right? What is it? How do we narrow down what makes a good idea and is it worth me posting? Using one of my 3 slots, my 5 slots a week. And so in this filter step, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, what is it that we should be posting about? And, we can get into building a content strategy, right? This is what a typical content strategy is. And, basically, good content strategy has a few things. We have like objective, right? What are we trying to accomplish here? Like, why are we even posting content? Is it for awareness? Is it more thought leadership? So this is like awareness. Is it leads? Right? Like, what are we trying to do? It's messy. Who are we trying to reach? Right? Your ICP, which hopefully everyone has defined or your company has defined. Right? Who are we actually trying to write to? What channels? Right? So what channels? Today we're talking about LinkedIn. And then we can have some like content, content plan things of like, when, time. The big ones that I want to focus on are these first 2. Because I think a lot of people post for the wrong audience. Actually, most people post for the wrong audience, especially founders. Hate to say it. Because as the founder of a CRM company or, whatever industry, you need to be writing content if your objective is get more leads, right? You need to be writing for your ICP, which means, and this is a hard one, you're not writing for your peers. You are not writing for, to get PR opportunities. You are not writing content for fundraising, right? You're not trying to reach VCs if you're doing this for sales. Now, if your objective is that you're writing content to be more of a thought leader so that you can get funding in the future, sure, there's a strategy around that. But we're writing to a different ICP, right? We're writing for a VC versus writing for a head of CRO of a startup who's deciding on which CRM to use. Very different ICP. And so we need to make sure that these things are defined, and it can be multiple things. It's fine. You're just going to reach your goals a little bit slower, or it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of find that niche, but we need to make sure that this is defined. So who is your ICP? Who are you actually writing for? And we can do a whole session on ICP definition, but you need to be specific. There's a famous jobs to be done framework. And it's essentially exactly what I just said with the CRM thing, right? The ICP of a head of CRO who's trying to pick a CRM, sorry for all these acronyms, someone on the sales team who needs to pick a software to help take care of all their clients or organize their sales process. That is a job they need to do, right? Jobs to be done. Their job that they need to do is they need to pick the infrastructure, their software that they're going to use to scale their sales team and their sales organization. That is a job they have to do, which is very different than a VC who has to go find new companies to invest in, right? That is a job that someone who works at a VC firm needs to do. And so when we say the content we're writing about needs to be framed through that context lens. But, right? Okay, so let's get into an example here. If I'm writing a post on the top 5 CRMs, you can just go to Claude or ChatGPT and ask what the top 5 CRMs are. You don't need to consume that on LinkedIn. And so that's what I was saying before about like general advice information or content just doesn't work anymore because, mm, you know, unless you already have credibility and you are like the CRM software guru, maybe someone will value your opinion over someone else. But, there takes you have to be really well known for that. And so what we have to do is we have to say, well, what do we believe in, right? What is our perspective that differs from someone else's? So like we need core beliefs, or some people call these pillars. I like core beliefs, right? What do you believe that no one else that someone can have an opposing opinion on? That's the key, right? It's like, we're not being contrarian for contrarian's sake. It is having a strong opinion about something. And the best way to know if you have a good belief is, can someone refute it, right? Making broad, sweeping opinions that everyone would agree with is not a belief, because if everyone believes it, it's a truism, right? Something that just is factual. We need to have that tension. We need to have that component. We're saying, hey, I believe this. And someone in the room could say, well, I don't because this reason. Amit, ICP stands for ideal customer profile. And that is just, it's like who you're targeting. What is the ideal customer? What do they do? What's their title? The most basic is like, what is their title? What do they do? What are they responsible for? Those types of things. Anyway, so we have this whole kind of filtering step, which goes through this whole process. That is the action, or one of the actions. Because again, the whole purpose of the session is to talk about LinkedIn content. So now that we are creating this, right, the whole idea here is to take all of these things that we're actually doing, filtering it through this step where we're saying, hey, is this right for us to be talking about? Is it going to meet our objectives? Is it going to reach the right person? Is it going to resonate with them? Does it align with what we talk about? Then we want to, write the content, right? That's kind of the action part 2 is write the content. And this is just formatting, right? It's like the idea lives in this first action step, and the formatting lives here. So this is some formatting where we say, okay, this is going to be things like tone of voice, right? Does it sound like me? What does it look like? Is it a listicle? Is it a short post? Is it a question? Right? Like all those things. It just kind of formatting. And too many people just focus on this like formatting step. And then what is our output? Well, the output here is simply a LinkedIn post. But we could build this and the system can work for a lot of different things. We're just talking about LinkedIn today, but this could live as, maybe we make a blog article from it too, right? You can have multiple outputs. Great. But let's just focus on one thing for now. So this is essentially the system that we want to be building to run on a continuous process or continuous system to help us never run out of content ideas. And what I'd recommend is putting in a human in the loop step, either here or because maybe you just want the idea and you want to write the post yourself, right? Get rid of the blank page problem and you kind of eliminate the whole, you know, pre-thought process of, what you need to be writing content about. Or you want a post written and you're going to review it and edit it before you hit publish. Maybe you're crazy and you don't review it at all. And, you just automatically let it publish. Rock out. Up to you. Okay. So I think let's start building this. And I want to just I want to make sure that the thought process is clear because, really taking this inputs, action, outputs framework and starting to apply it to everything has, really been game changing for me, especially as I've been working with AI more and more. It's like, all right, what information do we have available to us? In this case, it was like, what are the things I'm already doing? Right? Those are all potential inputs. But then we have, some kind of strategic thought process, filter step, whatever we want to call it, which you already do naturally, right? You have judgment on whether something is good or bad. Should I do this? Should I not? Right? There's steps to that. And so we're just codifying that into this filter step. Then we have the writing step. Then we're going to review it. And then it's going to post and we have an output. And again, whether that goes to your scheduling tool or whatever, that's up to you. So I'm going to jump into Claude Cowork. And because we're writing LinkedIn posts, the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to go and build some of that filter, that decision filter from my pre-existing LinkedIn content. Okay. So if we look back at and this is just a really run and gun kind of style way, but I essentially am going to say, create a LinkedIn content strategy, which includes objectives, ICP, and core beliefs. Make sure they are true beliefs and not truisms. Okay, then create a voice profile based on my writing style. And again, this is a little bit of a quick and dirty way to do this just for demonstration's sake. But maybe you have these things defined. It looks like Luis in the chat has this predefined from their writing before. And so, right, you might have this. Your company might already have a set of beliefs or, they're a little bit different than values. But, right, there are things that you guys stand for or have perspectives on. You might have these for yourself already. And so if you have this, what my recommendation is put that all into a chat and actually ask it to make it. But essentially, you want a file that has all of this in one place. So it's not constantly finding new information. It's all centralized into one specific document that you can use and you can improve on overall. Good question, Heather. So it looks like your work around the firewall for LinkedIn for Claude. I use Apify. Apify has a bunch of different tools essentially, or like connectors built into one. And so what's cool is once you've connected to Apify and you connect it to your account, they have these like bots or scrapers or something. I don't really know. Honestly, it's too complicated for me, but I just go in and I typed in like LinkedIn profile scraper or LinkedIn post scraper. And it looks like it's trying to find this information for my Notion, which I might just help it out and pause for a second. And so it's pulling the information from there. The key is like I don't connect my personal account to it whatsoever. My LinkedIn account, I would be way too scared for, getting banned or something. I don't recommend that. LinkedIn is hugely cracking down on automation. They are hating AI content. So definitely recommend using a third party tool where essentially if you're not logging into your own account, then you're fine. You can see that it is built from scratch. And you can see is we have this information already defined in our Notion. So it's pulling that, but if you're doing this new or whatnot. Okay, so as it's doing this, what we'll get is an output, and now it's scraping my actual LinkedIn. What we'll get is an output document that has all this information that we defined. So this is the filter step. As this is running, I'm going to go back to a new chat in the same folder, and I'm going to say on a weekly basis, I want you to from, right, all my sources, right? So I did sales calls, and I'm just going to give it a little nudge here and be like, we use Circle Back for this. So, and just so you know, these are all connectors that you should have connected before you do all this. News on go to market, Exa, and LinkedIn posts from, who do I want to put? Justin Welsh to come up with good, great content ideas, run them through the doc to evaluate whether we should turn them into a post or not. Make sure they align with my core beliefs and are written in my voice profile. I want at least 3 posts the previous what has worked. This is another one that I don't think a lot of people do is in those inputs. So if we go back to that diagram, let me finish this. I'll go back to the I want at least 3 post ideas each week. Okay, cool. All right, so that's going to start doing something. If we go back to our diagram, a really underutilized input is what's already been working. So, like my past performance. So it's going to go and look back at the last, 2 weeks, month of content that I've posted. And if something is working, we should double down on it. Maybe it should become a recurring, format that we do. This is how we found a lot of great recurring formats for our clients. It's like, hey, every time you talk about a funding announcement, it works. Like you get a lot of impressions, even if it's someone else's funding announcement. And so always looking at past performance and, past performance of your own content. But then that's where I really like the idea of like, okay, well, the past performance of anyone in my industry, you struggle a little bit with originality there, right? LinkedIn's gotten pretty good. If I see, you know, again, Justin Welsh, pretty large marketer, if he posts something and then I just post like a very clear carbon copy of it, it's not going to do very well. But maybe there's some things that you can learn about. Maybe it's the hook, maybe it's the format, some of those kind of stylistic choices here. It's a good one. That and as you can see, I actually focus. I think this is a good teaching opportunity. I focus so much more on the idea than anything else. Like, yes, we want it to sound like us. I guess that's more of an ego thing, in my opinion. But none of that matters. The format, the hook, none of that matters if the idea is crap. I think telling a real story from a sales call I was in last week is going to be so much more important than critiquing a few words on a hook. You can't fix a bad idea with good formatting. And so I focus so much more on the idea side of things. Okay, we are jumping back into Claude and we'll see how this is going. You can also see, right, my prompting. Everyone asks me for my prompts, but I really just give it the outcome that I'm looking for and I'm relying on it to get there. Man, this thing is really struggling. Use Appify. I don't know if anyone else feels like their Claude is perpetually getting dumber, just like every time I use it. Okay, nope. Create a new skill. We are doing a demo, although it's like too smart for its own good because it knows that I have all this already built. We are doing a demo and need to create it new for now. That has worked. We will use Appify. Cool. Okay, so it did ask some clarifying questions, which is great. But it's essentially was like, do you want just ideas and verdicts, or do you want the full draft? For demo sake, I'm going to go for the full draft, and then we're just going to build it first, and then we will learn it. We will get it into be a schedule after. This is good. This is running. It was trying to use Google Chrome to scrape a web page, usually like last resort. There are so many better ways to pull information from websites. Yeah, I can tell. Is the actual server down? Claude status. Man, that would just be a home run for. Oh yeah. Yep. Wow, that's great. So yeah, it does look like Claude is having a issue right now. Well, this is a little bit of a bummer. All right, let's see if we can get through it. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to build a temporary content strategy because that strategy hasn't actually been created yet because it looks like it's struggling in the background here. It is going to pull sales call signals from Circleback, which is our call recorder. This could be Gong. This could be, whatever you use internally. Fathom. Clarification: is it okay to use Sport to scrape your profile info, just not posting and pushing to the site? I've been very cognizant of the LI feelings on this Appify. Yeah, so good question. The way I think about it is if you're pulling information from the website that is public, you're generally good. If you are trying to perform an action that a human would take, as in posting, commenting, DMing, those are the things you have to be mindful of and wary of. Again, the way I can do a whole session on Appify. It's because I'm not logging into my account. It's not associated to my account at all. The way I think they do it, and I don't quote me on this, is they have like spoof accounts or they have dummy accounts that they use just to pull them. And I bet they burn through them pretty quickly unless they figured out some other process. But they are, yeah. So again, simple answer is if it's performing an action on your behalf, it's probably not good. Cool. While we let this run for a second to kill time, let me tell you about AEO. We've been doing a lot. LinkedIn is great. And I think one of the best benefits of LinkedIn content is building your own personal brand, building thought leadership, which helps you get new customers, get more clients. It builds your more credibility, right? People are doing so much more research before they get on a sales call where they are researching you and trying to build a layer of trust before they actually book a sales call. One of the kind of crazy benefits that we're seeing is LinkedIn is actually becoming one of the most referenced and cited social platforms for AI search, right? So someone goes and types in best go to market agency, LinkedIn is being cited as a source. And so what that means is building your thought leadership actually really impacts your Google AI search as well as like Claude, ChatGPT, whatever platform LLM you use. And so it's one of those like kind of hidden benefits, especially LinkedIn articles, which I find super interesting. We've been doubling down on it more and more because it is impacting our citation score so much more. But it's something that we do and have started building into our AEO packages is actually helping with LinkedIn thought leadership because of those kind of downstream effects. And so definitely recommend everyone taking a look at, and if you haven't started to look into Google or AI search, going and running an audit for yourself here. Honestly, the easiest way is just jumping into our website and running an audit here, completely free. We give, so much information away. It's honestly the same kind of caliber as like some of these paid AI visibility tools, but Our whole thing is give it away for free, and then we can help you actually produce the content because the tracking is pretty straightforward. But yeah, definitely take a look at it and think about it as you're building this LinkedIn content strategy as well. Because it for all of our clients, LinkedIn has become, and YouTube actually, have quickly become one of our best performing places of increasing citations. All right. Jumping back, it looks like we are still running into some issues with Claude. Man, this is 2 weeks in a row. Claude has had outages during our live session. What a bummer. Either way, if we don't get through this with the full amount of time, I'm going to send this project file as well as our full LinkedIn OS that has all of this already built out. So you can just open it up and plug in your information, and it runs this system for you. You just need to connect your Apify actors, or sorry, your MCPs, and then you're able to run this for yourself. Unfortunately, I think we are running into some technical difficulties, but keep an eye out for an email with all of this information with the file to run your AEO audit. You can't make any adjustments until you know how you are today. As we let this kind of load out and we wrap up on time here, any questions from the audience I can answer? Heather, Lewis, Rob, I appreciate all of your guys' active participation. You guys know I love getting questions live so I can help kind of answer these specific to you guys. Thanks, Rob. All right, guys. Well, I will see you. We have another session on Thursday. Again, we do these weekly. I'm sorry today got cut a little bit short. Hopefully, Claude doesn't have issues next week. And yeah, keep an eye out for your email and we'll see you around. Thanks, all.